As with any annual game franchise, it's hard not to compare Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War to last year's Modern Warfare. On the campaign side, Cold War easily outstrips last year's game, showing that Call of Duty fares far better when it errs on the side of fantasy. In Zombies, Cold War has a far more successful co-op mode than Modern Warfare's Spec Ops, though it's still in need of some balance tweaks. Multiplayer, however, is where Cold War struggles most. It falls flat, and that's especially apparent in Warzone's Shadow. Because I already shared my thoughts about the campaign at launch, I won't go on about it too much here. You can watch my campaign impressions video or read my full review on GameSpot for more details about the campaign, but overall, I had a ton of fun with it. It's goofy in places and kind of fumbles its best ideas at the end, but it incorporates the spy intrigue well and delivers a dramatized, fantastical version of the Cold War that is easy to get absorbed in. So let's talk about multiplayer.
We are defending Bravo.
As with any Call of Duty game, the standard suite of 6v6 multiplayer modes is here. There's not much to say about the modes themselves that hasn't been said before. They're the bread and butter of the multiplayer COD experience, and most of them work well. There's a relatively small group of maps available currently, with more already announced. The Cold War setting allows for a lot of variety from one map to the next, which helps the limited slate feel richer. A highlight in terms of aesthetic is Miami's neon-soaked streets. Each core 6v6 map balances close quarter spaces with long-range sightlines, and in my experience, they mostly translate well from one mode to the next. Combined Arms is Cold War's answer to Modern Warfare's Ground War, and it's my favorite of the multiplayer modes. The 12v12 objective-based mode incorporates vehicles at a manageable scale. You get boats on Armada, motorcycles on Cartel, and snowmobiles and tanks on Crossroads. Armada is the standout map with several ships connected by zip lines. To get around, you can take the zip lines, swim, or commandeer a speedboat or a larger turreted vessel. This provides a lot of dimension to the map. You can attract the attention of the opposing team with a loud vehicle but get to the objective faster, or you can dive underwater to avoid detection and sneak up on the deck of a ship at the cost of speed. The other two Combined Arms maps aren't quite as exciting though. While the boats and ziplines of Armada give you an efficient way of navigating a water-based map, Cartel has tighter spaces and a lot of bumpy ground, so its motorcycles don't serve much of a purpose besides alerting everyone to your position. The tanks on Crossroads are good for causing explosions, but you can be just as effective, if not more so, on foot. Conversely, Cartel and Crossroads work fine as 6v6 maps without their vehicles, whereas Armada is missing a lot of its charm without its boats. And while the maps are altered for the smaller player count, Armada still feels too big. It's much harder to get in a firefight without objectives to guide you. Fireteam Dirty Bomb, another new mode, suffers under the weight of its large player count. The 40-player mode isn't Battle Royale, but it borrows ideas from Battle Royale games, including dropping out of a plane into a free-for-all against other teams of 4. However, it lacks the stakes that make Battle Royale exciting. You can respawn over and over again after a short cooldown, and the objectives are scattered around the map, which means it's never quite clear which one you should be moving toward and where other teams might be moving in relation to you. It's easy to get flanked by multiple teams because you can't be sure where they're likely to come from, and because the maps are a bit too small for the number of players, you get into frustrating scuffles often. Across the multiplayer modes, Cold War feels a bit clumsier than Modern Warfare and, by extension, Warzone. It's missing key mechanics that Modern Warfare and Warzone have, including mounting weapons and switching a weapon's fire rate, which leaves Cold War at odds with the Warzone ecosystem. Of course, Cold War and Modern Warfare take place in two different eras, so it's not fair to expect them to be identical. But the two systems are different enough that it's noticeable, especially in the movement and gunplay. It's not that one is better than the other, but it's a jarring adjustment to switch to Warzone. After all, Warzone is still an active part of Call of Duty and is even launchable from the Cold War menu. A highlight in both multiplayer and zombies has to be the PS5's DualSense controller. Cold War utilizes the DualSense controller's various features, including nuanced haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers. When you're low on health, you can feel your heartbeat in your hands as it thumps in your ears and flashes red on the screen. When switching weapons, you can feel the difference in ADS speed through the left trigger's level of resistance. You can feel the difference in fire rate depending on how snappy or not the right trigger is, and the intensity of the vibration changes depending on the firepower and recoil you're working with. I actually find myself trying a wider variety of weapons than I might have in previous games, and the way they feel to shoot plays a big part in the ones I'm using most. It's at least nice that multiplayer shares gun progression with zombies, which is my way of segueing into zombies now. Thanks to the mystery box's random weapons, Zombies is a great place to try out new guns and level them up so you don't have to go into multiplayer at a disadvantage with no attachments unlocked. I've I've always liked zombies, but this is the first time in a while that I felt like I actually learned and improved after each run. A big part of that is the map design. D Machine is just the right size with enough room that everyone can kite their own crowd of zombies, but small enough that it doesn't take ages to learn the map basics or reach a downed teammate to rescue them. It only took a handful of runs to figure out which doors to unlock and when, how to get the power on, and how to unlock the Pack-a-Punch machine. Once we found a rhythm for the opening rounds, we could just focus on getting better and surviving longer. However, while the learning curve is manageable, the difficulty curve could use some tweaks. It ramps up rapidly after round 10 as base weapons start to get less and less effective. On top of upgrading weapons at the Pack-a-Punch machine using points, you also have to upgrade their damage tier separately using salvage, which drops from zombies at random. Salvage is very rare compared to points, so you'll end up packing a weapon twice before round 20, but unable to upgrade its damage tier to match. Your ability to do damage can stall out as a result. There's also radioactive bosses that join the normal zombie horde every few rounds, which exacerbates this issue. These bosses are really spongy, they eat a lot of bullets, and they survive between rounds. By round 20, we end up spending a good amount of our points at ammo crates just to keep up. Because packing a weapon the third and final time costs a whopping 30,000 points, it's difficult to save enough for the final upgrade, let alone survive long enough without the damage boost you'll get from it. The bosses themselves challenge you to coordinate with your team though, and we found some success by kiting a lone zombie around the map while we dealt with the bosses. Delaying the start of a new round this way isn't a new strategy for zombies, of course, but it's still satisfying to execute, especially while dodging radioactive projectiles and trading off runs to the ammo crates. It's just that the boss rounds occur too close together to give you and your team room to breathe. The biggest issue plaguing zombies at the moment, though, is a bevy of server and matchmaking hiccups. I spend 10 to 15 minutes just troubleshooting matchmaking before my team and I can actually start playing, and it's not uncommon for one person to randomly error out right as the run is starting. I've experienced this both when utilizing crossplay and when playing with only PS5 players. We've also had both PS5 and Xbox Series X players experience hard crashes that completely shut off their systems. Technical issues like these are forgivable in the grand scheme, considering Cold War is cross-gen on top of allowing crossplay and launching in the middle of a pandemic. Still, it's worth noting that there are some issues to be ironed out. It's reasonable to expect updates to Cold War at a steady clip. Weapons will be tweaked, issues will be patched, and gameplay will be balanced. Zombies has a strong foundation and may very well be improved further by potential updates, but the gap between multiplayer and the Warzone ecosystem is too wide to be bridged by small tweaks. Zombies is a good co-op time overall, but multiplayer falls flat, leaving the strong campaign to do most of the heavy lifting.